Well, I was at FIU, and I got to Dade South for 2 years, and then I went to FIU. At that time, it was only a 2-year school, and by then I got in as a sort of like general studies business major in Dade South, but I started to take acting classes, and quickly had a very disorganized college study program, because I was taking accounting classes and acting classes at the same time, and you can imagine what classes suffered. So then I got, eventually went into the acting track at FIU, and when I decided to move to Los Angeles, because I knew it was time to, fish or cut bait kind of thing, I got there, and there was only one person I knew there, which was Stephen Bauer. At the time, his name was Roque Echevarria, and I stayed with him I stayed with him for a couple of weeks. Actually, I was here. He had gone earlier because he was, he had some success with Garcia USA, and he moved to California, and he got an agent right away, and he called me, and he said, and immediately within like 2 or 3 weeks, he got a contract for Columbia Pictures Television, a 1-year contract, and they paid him like $120,000 or something like that to be under contract, and they liked him, and they wanted him to be in some shows or whatever. So he said, "Hey man, get over here. There's a lot of work. Come on." So I said, "Okay." So I worked that summer at a discotheque here that my brother was involved in called Alexander's, and made it. But I was able to bring like $5,000 from basically tips that I made as a sommelier and sort of like a maitre d' in the club that summer. And I moved to Los Angeles. I sold my car here. I moved to Los Angeles, and I took. I was rocking for 2 weeks, and then I rented a little storefront apartment on Fountain Sycamore, and I had my bed on the floor. I had like a storefront, had a big window. People can walk in front of my apartment. So then I go by there and say, what of all the places to live, why would I pick a place where I was like in a fish tank and people can come and look, hey, look, there's a guy sleeping over there. It was absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, I had this bed on the floor. I had an egg crate, that I got on the Mayfair, which is like a food fair. Next to me, I took one of those egg crates and put a little black 13-inch TV this big on it, and my conga drums. And my conga drum I would eat on it. That was my dining room table. Yeah. And then I started to send out pictures and try to get an agent, and basically most of the agents in town who saw my picture and actually spoke to them or went to see them said, change your name, fix your teeth, lose your accent, come back and see me, you have an interesting look. And it became like a pattern. Change your name, fix your teeth, lose your accent, you have an interesting look. And then, which was, was like, wow. And I started, and it was, you're a young man, you're there, you're going, do I have, yeah, that is true. That a lot of people in Hollywood over the years, they were Hispanic or Russian or whatever, and they would change their name, to sort of be in the middle ground, and because you don't look Hispanic, so you shouldn't change your name. Okay. So, it was a moment, a crossroad, it was a crossroad in my life, because I said, and what got me through it, and what helped me through it was, who am I? All this time I've been studying acting, and the key thing was always the constant thing, whether you're studying Meisner or Strasberg or Stella Adler or Uta Hagen, any of the great teachers and the great, they always say personalization. You must personalize the work so you can bring your emotional life to the characters that you're playing. You might not be a Russian student in Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard, but that Russian student is going through things that you have gone through in your life, and you have to find those parallels. And you can't act those things, you have to share those things. And they have to be your pains and your celebrations within the context of this character. So I was fortunate that I had some wisdom And I think also out of respect for my parents, and for my culture, and to honor my craft the way I was taught to honor it, I could not lose who I was. So I made that a choice at that crossroad to not change my name, not fix my teeth, and I lost a good portion of my accent, because that was getting in the way of my abilities, my range as an actor. So that was something that was important. I could do a Spanish accent, but I need to also be able to do an Italian accent or an American accent. So this is part of the craft. So that was good with that. So that became a difficult thing, because in those days, in the late 70s and early 80s, the stereotyping was still very strong. The Latins were not in favor. You know, it wasn't like it became a sexy thing in the 90s. All the Latins became, you know, but it was not in favor. In those days, there was 5 networks, 5 studios: Fox, Paramount, Warner Brothers, whatever. 5 major studios. There was no independent versions of that studio like the Miramaxes or the Fox Searchlight. There was nothing of that. It was just 5 big studios, 3 networks on television, PBS. That's it. There was no cable. There was no HBO, Showtime, Lifetime, A&E, Discovery, you know, 17, not as 30K. My daughter, Dominique, who's an actress professionally now, she has more auditions in a week than I used to have in a year. She goes on auditions twice a week. I used to go twice a year. So I would go, God, I had 2 auditions this year. You know, when is this going to accelerate? How do I crack this thing? If I don't have an opportunity to audition, how am I going to get work? And I remember one of the first auditions I had, at the time they were making gang pictures, Mexican gang movies. Boulevard Nights, the other one Colors. And I go, so I get an audition. I walk into the casting. This audition after 6 months of waiting for an audition. I walk in, the woman looks at me and she goes, huh? She starts looking through all these pictures she has on the thing, and she goes, and she finds my photograph, she goes like this, she goes, "You're not Mexican?" I said, "No." I said, "Yes." "Oh, no, we're looking for Mexicans, sir. We're looking for Mexicans." I go, "I can act Mexican." And he goes, no, we're looking for, like, you know, gang member types, and you know gang member types. I said, "I'm an actor." No, thank you very much. I'll keep your picture here, maybe there'll be another opportunity. Thank you very much. That was 6 months I was waiting for that thing. She didn't even let me read. And of course, you know, when I went outside, you know, in the hallway, in the waiting room, there was like real gang members there waiting. And you know, the reality is that they were working actors, because they were always you know, they were the sort of stereotypical bad guys in American television in those days. And so it was a very difficult process, but to make a long story short, what got me through everything was the power of my culture. Because even though we were acting in English, my point of view was who I was. And that made me different than a lot of people out there. And I have more at stake than a lot of people out there. And when you have more at stake,